Hi, I'm Alan Doderlein with the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, and I'm talking about stigma and self-disclosure today with Robert Haggart, who is a peer counselor at the Living Room at Turning Point in Skokie, Illinois. And thank you very much, Robert, for being with us today.
Certainly.
Robert, when you hear stigma, what does that word mean to you?
I think stigma can be very hurtful and very minimizing to the individual who is receiving the stigma, and very short-sighted on the person giving the stigma.
You can also have stigma maybe about yourself.
Right.
What's that like?
You know, my own stigma has kept me down for probably more time than anybody else's stigma, due to the fact that I do hold myself to a high bar. I ask a lot of myself, and when I can't perform to that ability, I'm pretty hard on myself.
So it's almost more debilitating to have that stigma from within than that you might have from without. I wonder, what are some ways that you deal with it? If it's particularly hard, whether you're with that critical eye upon yourself or whether you're perceiving it from another person, how do you deal with it?
I have to be kind to myself. I have to be healthy. I think it goes into getting help from therapists and friends and family and people that nurture your soul.
When we encounter stigma, what are some of the things we can do individually or together with the rest of the community to combat it?
I think first we need to act with kindness and understand that sometimes when people have stigma, it's because of their own shortcomings. I also think that support groups are very helpful, not only for the person with a mental illness, but for their family members.
What are some examples or some instances of stigma that you've seen from, the outside world about you or others with a mental health diagnosis?
Some of the things that can happen are as innocuous as overlooking somebody or turning the other way.
If you look at some tactics or techniques for counteracting stigma, whether it's from an outside person or whether it's towards yourself, what are some concrete things you can do to reduce or eliminate stigma?
Grassroots organizations can help with stigma in a great way. You can talk to a congressman or a senator, you can talk to your state representatives, you can talk to your friends and family.
What's an example of something that you've done in a group setting or in a public event that has helped you to deal with stigma?
My wife and I spoke at the 25th annual convention for the National Alliance on Mental Illness to over 3,000 people, and that was a huge stigma buster for us.
Explain how. Explain what that did to help eliminate stigma when you spoke with your wife.
Well, for one, it made me feel as though I didn't have so much stigma for myself because I didn't have anything to hide from anybody. At the same time, people got to hear our story, and I don't just mean a story of success, I mean a story of working through our illness and coming to a point where we can be on top of it, where we can work, where we can function in the home, where we can get out of bed. I know those things sound very simple and average to most people, but to somebody with a mental health issue, I think those can be huge challenges.
A lot of people have questions about the workplace, for example, and obviously your line of work, it has a special application, but that's not always the case. So are there any special considerations for disclosure in the workplace?
I'm very lucky in that I work in a community mental health system where my colleagues that I work with are very accepting and very encouraging, actually. Not only that I share my mental illness with my clients, but that I share my health with other people in the agency, and they'll ask for input. In some professional settings, I don't just come out and tell you that I have a mental illness because it's not always appropriate. Just like you wouldn't always tell somebody you had a stomach ache, or you wouldn't tell somebody you had a heart condition. You show up and do the job. And I think accomplishing goals and setting goals and really working through the difficulties that come every day, show people that you can meet them on the same playing field. And I think that speaks volumes for stigma.
What are some of the instances that you would see for yourself or others that you might not want to disclose?
Maybe the first time you meet someone.
So, hi, I have bipolar disorder. My name is Joe.
Right.
That's not what you would advocate
Not
for.
my general.
Sure. That makes sense. What are some other situations?
I think that discretionary use of disclosure is so important. And I say that because not everybody needs to know our condition in order for us to be effective. And with that, I think that the ability to disclose and own your illness is crucial to getting better. At the same time, having an awareness of your surroundings that won't hurt you is also crucial.
We were talking earlier about living with bipolar disorder, and to a certain extent, it's made us who we are. Could you talk a bit about that?
I think through the trials and tribulations of living with a disorder has accentuated my life in many ways. I say that because there are people in my life that wouldn't be in there. There are experiences in my life with depth and richness and meaning that I don't know if I would have experienced the same way without my mental illness. The highs are very high, the lows are very low with bipolar illness, as you know. And I think there's nothing like overcoming one of those low points. There's also nothing like coming down from a high point. I think meeting life on life's terms is so crucial. And I've been able to do that so far, and that's been very rewarding.
Getting back to that definition of stigma, it's almost like a prejudice for negativity. Mm-hmm. I hear something about you, and that means that you're bad. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing from you, what I'm getting from this conversation is absolutely the opposite. That I hear something about you, that you've experienced bipolar disorder, and that means to me that you have something extraordinary. And what a great way to subvert stigma, by living well.
Absolutely. Living well is the greatest stigma buster, I think.
Robert, thank you so much for being with us, and clearly your life is a testimony to the extraordinary things that can happen for people when they fight stigma and when they disclose when it's appropriate to do so. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.